have a special guest here today, Anthony.
What's up?
Yeah, we're super stoked that you're here. I got some things to say about you.
Oh man, I hope all good things.
So I kind of stole it from Google, so let's hope it's right. Anthony Kannon is a versatile hip hop artist from Ithaca, New York. Kannon has an underground East Coast sound with a mainstream vibe. His life events inspired him to tell a story through poetry and influences from artists like Eminem and how do you say?
It's Royce da 5'9".
Royce da 5'9". Yeah, you guys, I'm a little out of my territory here.
Sorry, that's actually what makes the show kind of cool too. It's
Yeah.
So.
Well, this pushed and inspired you to begin rapping. You got anything to say about that? Is Google correct about you?
Google is somehow correct about me. I don't know how they got that. Good investigation duties. Nah, it's absolutely correct. A lot of the stuff that I experienced early in my life just pushed me directly to music.
Okay.
And definitely first as a consumer, but at an early age, it touched me so much. I saw people expressing their selves, and it made me want to do the same thing.
Right.
And a lot of that just stemmed through what I was going through at that point in my time.
Right.
In life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who feel that way. I know one of my best birthday presents ever. I was 8 years old, and my parents guided me into the stairwell, and they gave me an old turntable with a bunch of albums. Oh, man. And I got to be honest, I was pretty disappointed. But then I set it up in my bedroom, and I started listening, and I had Michael Jackson's Thriller. I had Cyndi Lauper. I had The Police. And I couldn't stop listening. And
you had the classics.
Yeah. I mean, I was raised on the good stuff, and so I understand that inspiration because it caused me to want to play guitar. So
no, of course. Yeah. And luckily, somebody helped you get into there. You feel me? At first, you were a little bit disappointed. You didn't really understand how much of an impact which the gift you got was capable of. And luckily, you utilized it. And look at you still years later.
Yeah, I would do nothing else. Music is where it's at for me. So I get you, man. I get that.
No, I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony, I'm really curious to know, like, why hip hop? What is it about the poetry and hip hop and the beats and like that culture, that vibe? What was it about that spoke to you?
That's a good question. I think that there's almost just like a brutal honesty in hip hop that the best music always has brutal honesty. But there's something about the cadence combined with how people just typically in this culture have a bunch of situations that they're related to. They all are connected some way or another. They're just expressing their different point of views in their own unique ways. And so early on, when those things that I was going through in life led me to music, one of the things that drove me to it the most was just expression of self. And that's something that is bar none in hip hop. It wasn't always the beats that necessarily drove me to it, because I even, like 9 years old, I was listening to straight battle raps. And that's all a cappella.
Oh, man.
And it's really just the power of words and what you can do when you connect them and interweave them in different ways. Like even Dr. Seuss, Shel Silverstein.
There you go.
There was just something about poetry in general, hip hop in general. It always just spoke to me.
That's sick. And you mentioned that it's something that kind of jumps out at me is the no rules thing. Like it's like it's so blunt. It's so like, you can just get right to the point.
Of course.
And that's something that hip hop does that other genres of music I think struggle with sometimes. It's like you've got such experimentation happening in hip hop, and you can kind of do it like you want.
No, of course.
And I think that's what's cool about that.
Of course. And what's a rapper without a producer? The producers are just as creative in so many different ways. You go back to the vinyl, you got the DJs, you feel me? It's one of the pillars of hip hop. And so when you bring two different minds together, somebody that's bringing the instrumentation, the beat to the whatever, the rhythm that you're going to be bopping to, and then you have somebody bringing the words, it's crazy what you can do. It's absolutely insane. Music is just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, my favorite time in the studio is demo time.
Oh, man.
When you just like rip into stuff and just get inspired and then try different instruments. And all of a sudden you're in a totally different place than you were 10 minutes ago, and it's just flowing. And then you walk out of there and it's like, whoa, what just happened? It's like a flow.
Incredibly spontaneous.
Yeah. That spontaneity I had to learn, actually. I started with engineering and I was kind of cold about stuff. But once I started demoing music and not really caring if it was perfect right away, and then it just kind of, that inspiration lends to something pretty awesome. So you said you you mentioned producers. This is one thing I love about this music is producers aren't always up front in things like this, but you have a right hand producer, and this is clever.
Yeah, Dez is clever. That's my man. We went to high school together.
Yeah.
One of the things that I keyed in on a couple years ago was trying to just work with anybody production-wise locally that I could. And luckily, I knew a bunch of people that made amazing beats, and it was just a natural connection. But Dez is clever. Pierce, I've actually been working musically with him since I was in 8th grade. I was like 14 or something.
Wow.
We connected over Facebook or Twitter, even though we were in the same school. And it was just over hip-hop. And eventually, we started kicking it, just rapping, freestyling. And he's a great producer. That's what he's been known for now, but we used to have wicked freestyle sessions in the crib. Like he could rap off the top of his head for 2-3 hours straight.
Oh, man.
It was insane.
That's
But the abundance of producers out here is ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
intense.
speaking of Ithaca, right? You're talking about Ithaca.
yeah. Let's get into the local scene here.
I mean, did you think that it would happen in Ithaca like that? I mean, for this kind of music, did it lend itself to the community?
The crazy thing is, I'm gonna answer that question, but to stem off it a little bit, is it's not even finished growing yet. That's the most insane part
Good
about
point.
it.
That's a good point.
I did think it was capable of it, but I didn't think that I would see it, especially the turn. And a lot of that has been attributed to a lot of the artists out here buying into the idea of coming together. Because I've been paying attention to the music scene out here since I was a wee little lad. You feel me? Like I was putting YouTube videos up off my laptop when I was 10 years old. Like I was rapping when I was young, but I never was trying to take it very seriously. It was just something that I loved. I always knew I wanted to later in life take it serious. So everything that happened locally, I was paying attention to. There's OGs from Ithaca that were rapping decades ago that the city was not always susceptible to hip hop as a whole. They didn't really like having hip hop concerts out here, so there was no real room for growth for a lot of artists. So hip hop kind of died off besides a couple really main acts in the town. But I got to see the tides turn. And there's a lot of people that paved the way for stuff like this to happen, and it was our duty to try to carry the torch and build off what they started.
Man.
Well said, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
very clear that you have a passion for this.
Of course.
And that's something, you know, we want to instill in the community. It's a very passionate community surrounding music, but there's certain levels to it. And I just it takes a lot to really reach that level of like, this is my life. This is what I do. And
It's something you really have to buy into. And if you can't buy into it, then why would somebody else? That's something you really just have to live with at the end of the day. If you're not willing to bet every last thing on yourself, then why would somebody else? You have to be able to put the same amount of faith and belief in yourself that you would expect anybody else to.
So what would you like to see for the Ithaca community here in terms of music? What would you like to see happen in the next, even the next couple months? Like, what's something you'd love to see for maybe it's something in the hip hop, something in the general music scene or the clubs, you know?
That's a hard question to really answer, because I think what I'd like to see out here is more long term. There's not too many things that in the immediate I'm just like, I need that right now. Because I think it's always a long game when you're playing out here, because a lot of politics get involved with it, unfortunately, with the area that we're in.
we could talk about that too.
That's another whole podcast.
A whole other podcast. I think that one thing that we're all waiting on, and I hope people feel the same way that I do about this, not necessarily y'all, but the artists in the area that are all striving to do the same thing, is that once one of us from out here makes it, and it's not necessarily just Ithaca. There's a lot of cats out here that are interwoven in the community from Binghamton, Elmira, Syracuse. Once one of us takes that leap and puts that spotlight on this area, it's going to do so much for everybody. And so there's not one person or that I want to see make it, or one thing that I need to see happen, because I just know when it does, it's gonna break the barriers for so much, because there's just an abundance of shit in this community that the world could really benefit from.
Well, there's roots here in that. We have been dreaming about the same thing. I mean, it's the idea of new Vine is new artistry. And I think we're kind of tired on the old artistry. Not that the old artistry isn't important, not that that stuff isn't inspiring, but the mechanism of discovering the new and the new artists like yourself that are coming out from the underground into the mainstream. There isn't that mechanism. And to try to create community and collectives that prop that up and to actually everybody helping each other get to that place. When that several get out there, I think it's going to pull the rest of the community up. And this podcast was kind of started, I don't know, a few years ago by a buddy of mine and I named Jeff Goodmark, who we tried to do something called Ithaca's Music because we felt like Ithaca had such a unique place in the landscape of musicality out there in this country and in this world. And it's just undiscovered. It's undiscovered. It's rich what's in this town, and we're just hoping for it to be connected to the rest of the world. And so to hear you say that, that's inspiring, man. It's inspiring me. I gotta tell you,
it's an abundant mentality, for sure. Yeah, so it's as long as we should be rooting for each other, lifting each other up, and if someone does get out there, it's like that's gonna benefit everybody, like you said.
Absolutely, because it doesn't even take somebody to get on and champion Ithaca. They don't have to be like, I'm from Ithaca. I'm putting Ithaca on the map. Because that's going to happen regardless. People are going to be like, wait, who's this person from the place where Cornell's at? Ithaca College? What is that? Like upstate New York, like the same thing happened.
30 square miles surrounded by reality.
Exactly.
That's what it's called.
And
there you go.
Buffalo is a completely different city than Ithaca, but you just saw what happened when Griselda and Benny the Butcher and artists like that.
Benny the Butcher, he's from Buffalo. That's right.
Exactly, and you have Eminem signing an artist from Buffalo, and Conway the Machine and West Side Gun. You have Eminem coming to Buffalo and then taking rappers from Buffalo, flying them to Detroit to sign record label contracts. You feel me?
That's sick.
And that's something that validated upstate in a way that I don't think we really ever had per se. There's a bunch of underground legends out here that have been doing it. One of my favorites, 38 Special in Rochester. But that's the type of validation that I'm talking about, because we don't necessarily need it ourselves, but the world tends to like validation for them to gravitate towards you. And so once you get validated, quote unquote, it's easier and for people to be more susceptible to your sound on like a national basis.
I can see why people like listening to you. You're kind of contagious, man. You're getting me all riled up over here. This is good.
No, let's get it.
Yeah, I feel like validating the blue collar musician, bringing the newer artist that hasn't had that connection yet. Everybody loves that story. Everybody loves that story. It's a good story. It's a needed story. And the music business used to be made up of those stories. But a lot of us are looking at the guys on the top and going, how did they get there? And it's like a mystery, right? Because you don't hear those stories anymore unless it's on The Voice or something silly like that. I'm not saying it's totally silly, but I feel like
it's pretty silly though.
It's okay. It's extremely silly. I just don't want to.
It's entertainment. That's
I don't want to get tarred and feathered down in Ithaca. But I feel like your spirit, that attitude, is exactly right. Now you spoke about leaving. So has your sights been on getting out of this town, or do you feel that there's still value in this town?
There's still both things can be true at once, I believe. There can still be value in this town while I'm focused on trying to get out of here when it's right. And a lot of people told me it was right 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. But I don't know when it's right. There's been times where I definitely have wanted to get out like really badly. Times where I was like, there's no way I'm leaving as well. Yeah. So I definitely do not plan to be in Ithaca for the next decade making music. That not as my main home base per se. Like I do believe I have to get out somewhere to branch out and just try to spread the gospel essentially. Yeah. I don't know exactly where that is. I don't know if you start to be a nomad going across the country regularly, like you don't have a necessary home base. But I do think that eventually God spread your wings and leave the nest. You feel me?
Yeah. So Fish and I were talking about focus before the show today, and it's kind of the theme of this. When it comes up in the title, you're gonna see your name, and it's like focus in the industry. So you have focus. You are focused and you are dedicated. So What kind of dedication do you think it takes to do that? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis for a guy like you or an artist, anybody out there trying to make their way down that path?
We all have completely different paths. So I can only speak from my own personal experience and what dedication looks like to me in terms of how I treat it. I believe it's not if, it's when, completely. But in order for that to be the case, I got to do my job. Like I told myself a long time ago, because I already shattered all the expectations I had for myself. I never thought that what I've done was really going to be done, especially by the age I had. Like, I wasn't planning on being a big rapper when I was young. I told myself that I just lost my train of thought. Dedication looks like what I do is since a decade ago. Every day after school, in school, even outside of school when I graduated, I was writing. I was doing sports. I was doing my own thing outside of it, but the main foundation was always music. And still to this day, I go to work, I go back home, and immediately I pick up a pen and I write. Maybe work out, maybe play some video games, eat some food, then I write. And I write multiple songs a week.
Yeah, we've seen that. Actually,
we gotta talk about that. Actually, that you write so much, and I heard, and I didn't believe this at first. Maybe you can confirm it for me. I heard you're releasing one album a month for the next 17 months. Is that right? Is that not right?
No, it's like how mythical folk tales grow over time.
Yeah. I'm like, this
so what's the truth?
What's happening? This is insane because I've never heard of anybody doing that.
So it's not very far off, to tell the truth. My plan, starting the end of 2021, was to let go of the vault that I've been hoarding for the past couple years. Because when the pandemic started, I bought my own studio, so I started recording at home, and I started doing 20 hours a month in the studio. At separate sessions. And I did that for 2.5 years. And so I had 20 hours a month, 2.5 years. And I don't freestyle in the booth. Every time I go to the booth, I have a list of stuff written. So it was just a planned agenda for that time, just growing.
So you're saying
recording,
dedication looks like planning.
Yeah, definitely planning. I still have to get much better at planning. I feel like just because I plan something, that's enough. But no, you have to really get good at that.
Yeah.
And that's something I need to work towards personally. But definitely not dropping a project every month for 17 months. But I thought that for this year, I was going to drop a project a month for the year. I didn't drop a project in May, but I've dropped one December, January, February, March, and April. And I have one dropping this Friday.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it on your stuff.
Okay.
I'm really excited about the project this Friday. What I've been trying to do is that, like I said earlier, I've been building with a lot of local producers. And so when we linked up, they usually send me 20, 30 beats in a pack. And out of that 20, 30, I'm working with some real dope producers. So out of 10 or 15 of them, I'm going to get some songs out of. And so you get 20, 30 packs, you get 15, 20 songs out of each of them. And now you're working with a couple hundred songs that you can toy with and make projects out of.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these projects, every project that I made this year was linking up with one producer, sequencing some of the favorite songs that we had, and just putting out a collection of music with a different producer. And so that's the way that I've been doing it. That's the way a lot of these projects that I have slotted are going to be. Just like rapper and producer Royce the 5'9" and DJ Premier, they have Prime as a duo.
Nice.
Excuse me, and essentially that's how all these have been so far. But eventually we're gonna get into some really longer LPs as opposed to the EPs. This next project that I'm dropping tomorrow, Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Friday.
That's 2 days, I think, from now.
2 days from now, whatever that
Whenever
is.
it is.
Yeah.
The next project that I'm dropping is the longest solo project I've dropped since my debut in 2018, which was Colorblind. And that was just my first attempt at music in general.
Well, besides the obvious sacrifice of time and just planning, is there a notable sacrifice in this focus that you have that maybe has been a real price to pay in music?
It's really just the mental space that it takes up in your mind. Like if you're truly dedicated, it's really all you think about all day, every day, and balancing that.
What about relationships?
Oh, I've been in a relationship for 7 years. I've been with the same person since 11th grade. That's who actually came with me today. And she could tell you it's incredibly hard to deal with something like this. And I've been trying to pursue rap as a career the whole time that we've been together. And especially at the beginning, it was really hard.
Okay.
And you learn to grow over that. Many different types of obstacles that you face. But it's family. Even though I make sure to spend time with them, like mentally, am I dedicating too much to music and not enough time for family? Am I not putting enough? Am I distracted by music while I'm supposed to be invested in what's happening right now in this conversation?
Right.
Meanwhile I'm thinking of a bar in my head or like some stuff that I messed up on the last take from the recording studio. So there's a lot of different things like that. And the number one thing that I'd say actually is I've had the same friends for the majority of my life. And because of the dedication of music, and not just that, it's that I can't put it all on that. But it is, I work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, sometimes more. And so when I'm outside of that, I'm doing a 10-hour studio session. And then that leaves me with one day to damn near split between my family, my girl, and myself. You feel me?
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't even bring in the friends.
I'm getting
yet.
tired just listening to it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
It's like, so I'm trying to learn how to balance everything better, because I think not only myself, but the people around me will benefit from it as well.
And your music
it's
will
not
too.
Impossible.
Your music will
Oh,
too.
speaking
Yeah,
of
1,000%.
that,
Yeah.
we gotta
listen.
We gotta get to a song.
That's right.
Let's
Because
get it.
we gotta hear the fruits of your labor here. So this one is called 1 + 2 + 3. And give us a quick little something about the song before we hear it.
So this is actually by the producer we mentioned earlier, Des is Clever. We recorded this a couple years ago. I didn't drop it till February. We dropped it on a project called Palindrome. He produced the whole project. This is one of my favorite songs off of it, so I'm glad that you guys are actually playing it. It kind of sounds like a horror movie.
Oh, that's real great that you say that. I wrote in my notes here that it sounds like a horror movie and that the beats are
He's
hard.
not joking.
I'm not kidding. It's in here, dude.
I'm like, were you guys talking?
So
before this?
yeah, it
we
came
did talk
across
before
really
that,
good.
but that's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, so let's listen to it. 1 + 2 + 3. Let's hit it.
Yeah. 1 + 2 + 3 times 3. I don't know what half they had. Their little dance on the pack came in. 1 + 2 + 3 times 3. How many clips can this ashtray fit? Bow. Still hit an old pair of ups with a toothbrush. Young is on goals where they always try and shoot some. I don't know what half they had. Their little dance when the pack came in. 1 + 2 + 3 times 3. You never pedaled work and you ain't held a brick. I know by how you sound, you ain't smelly, you sniff, you a customer, not a hustler. And it's customary, can't you tell?
That is hard stuff right there. I mean, like
What,
you
the
said-
like figuring out the math equation?
No, just
No, I'm just joking.
yeah, just
That's all I'm thinking about through the whole
Right?
song. I gotta
Oh,
be honest
man.
with you. It's too much.
Man. What is your guys' interpretation of that? Do you have any way you perceive that, or is it just a
Man.
random math equation to you?
You're putting me on the spot.
Nah, yeah, I've been on the spot the whole time.
yeah, it's true, man. We're flipping the tables now.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, like, so as a drummer, I'm always hearing the beat first, usually, and then so lyrically, I would have to go in and read the lyrics like a poem, and then the next listen, I'd be able to put the beat and the lyrics together. So that's just how my musical mind goes.
Absolutely, I think that's actually pretty common. I think a lot of people experience music like that.
I think so.
Myself included. But
I feel like some are good about lyrics first, and some will just like
No, I'm the
beat
opposite.
is secondary, and they'll just be hearing all the lyrics.
that's,
You know?
that's me personally.
So there
but
you go.
there's certain.
I think writers are that way.
Yeah, I can imagine
Yeah.
a lot of them are.
Yeah.
But I know tons of writers that beat first. Like don't play that trash around me.
Well, I
Like,
wanted to-
if the beat don't knock, I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, see that
Yeah.
that's where I come from. That's my school of thought. So I wanted to. That was one of the questions I had in my notes. Was like, how important is the beat to the success of a song? So, because for me, I'm not gonna really be into a song if the beat isn't hitting.
Of course.
And so
That's
like,
what catches me too.
that's sort of why
Yeah.
I picked these tunes. I'm like, these beats stood out to me. And then the one later, that music video was just really fun. So I was liking that on the Ghost song.
Yeah, I working with artists, I feel the aesthetic musically is the first thing that really catches me. So the lyrics hit me later, and that's usually like another whole experience because it's like, oh,
I was
yeah,
right.
that,
Like,
yeah, no, I was feeling that. I didn't get the lyrics catching that.
Or you
But
find
it's-
something in the lyrics
yeah.
later that you didn't realize were there.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure
that's
that happens, right?
it happened.
best thing.
The last interview we did with Timothy, that happened. Actually, he interpreted just one of his songs for us. Like we had no idea.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
And that's one of my favorite things about rap specifically.
yeah,
Is that some of the best rappers out here, you can listen to a song 50 times and for 5 years straight, and then on that 6th year you'll be like, wow,
there's some depth that you didn't see.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That bar is crazy. That story, just everything you can catch 1,000 years later.
Well, I've heard people that have even written stuff themselves, and they've kind of had that revelation about stuff they've written. You know,
Yeah,
um,
that happens.
you
for
know
sure.
Hannah. She's my daughter, and your friends.
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you know that?
Nah, no.
Oh, okay, cool. Well,
now,
hey,
now you know.
now you know. Yeah. So anyway, she is literary in her writing. I produced her last album, and it was all aesthetic for me musically, and for her, it was mostly important about get those lyrics out.
Man, like
Yeah.
we spoke about earlier, it's not just hip hop that's rooted in brutal honesty and just having substance in the music. Like the best
Yeah.
music always have substance, because there's always going to be stuff that could be played in the background that you enjoy.
Right,
But
sure.
even down the country, you go back to R&B, soul music. So many things are based off of like just real honesty, telling your own
Yeah.
personal story.
Or there's some real irony in music if it's happy music, but it's really a dark subject, or
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
there's a lot of that.
like contrast, which
I think like Lily Allen was a
Oh, yeah.
singer-songwriter. She would do like real happy sounding music, but she's talking about like
terrible things.
like terrorizing her boyfriend or something like that. But you'd never know because the music's so happy sounding.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, somebody who's a good example of that in the modern rap game, R.I.P., but Mac Miller.
Oh yeah.
He's somebody that he did have a lot of just point blank happy songs.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, if you
It's
listen
dark.
to the lyrics, especially reflecting on it, you're like, oh wow, he was pouring his heart out this whole time.
He was
and
struggling a lot in,
Yeah.
in his music. That's what made it beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Definitely rest
So-
in peace. Gone too soon.
Yeah, that was pretty rough departing. I was going to ask you about Spotify.
Oh, Spotify.
Yeah. So what are Spotify numbers to you? What does that all look like for you?
When I was younger, I used to put a lot of stock into it, but at this point, I really could care, like, I couldn't care less about Spotify numbers at this point, to be frank. But when I was younger, I put a lot of stock into it because I grew up putting music on YouTube and SoundCloud. And so Colorblind, I referenced that earlier, my first album, I wanted to get that on all platforms. I didn't have Apple Music or Spotify prior to putting music on it. So I never knew what the interface looked like. I never had a consumer experience. So when I started putting music on there, I got Spotify for Artists, and I started looking at the analytics, and I'm like, oh wow, this is insane information. And sometimes you get happy, you get sad looking at those numbers.
Depressing, right?
If you put a lot of stock into those numbers, it could be an emotional roller coaster. And you should always take that information for what it is because it's valuable, but you shouldn't live or die based on any of your platform numbers.
I love that. You just seem to have a real solid theme in your music journey of just not giving a fuck about what other people think about what you're doing. You just love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I think that's what a lot of people need to hear. So they get caught up in the numbers, they get caught up in the algorithm, they get caught up in being heard all the time, and they just miss the boat because really if they were just focused on doing what they do well, that'll probably happen.
No, but and I completely agree with that. But that's also something that it took a lot of time to learn that. Because this journey has been long and it's far from over.
It's the hero's journey.
It's the hero's journey. You feel me?
You still want to be heard.
Oh, you still want to be heard, and you want to be heard by as many people as possible. And so when you feel like all the work, all the energy, all the time, all the money, all the resources, all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into it equate to less than you get that less than 1,000 line on Spotify.
Yeah,
So
we're all familiar with that, right?
Yeah, I know some
It's
really
like an arrow through your heart.
some of my favorite artists that I've collabed with over 100 artists. I have over 60 collabs on Spotify with different people. And so some of my favorite artists that I've ever worked with and came across in this music thing put too much stock in their Spotify numbers. I know some that want to quit right now because their numbers don't reflect what they think they deserve. And they don't. You deserve way more. But you got to realize it's the long game. You can't play the immediate. You have to focus on building that core fan base.
That's
because
awesome.
you could have 10 million views on that song, but if you don't have 50 fans, then what's the point of that? Like,
That's so true. We've talked about that on previous episodes where the numbers don't always translate to people coming to your show. So some people like A&R reps, they try to go that. They'll say like, oh, this person has 5 million hits on YouTube, so if we book them at our club here, then there'll be people showing up. But it does not always translate like that.
Nah, and that's why a lot of these signed artists that are down to major labels, they're not performing, and they can have a top 10 Billboard hit. They can have 50 million streams on a Spotify song, but if they can't go on tour because nobody knows their name, they heard that song in a playlist somewhere. They don't know you, they know the song. And if somebody doesn't know you and is willing to spend $50 to go to the stadium and listen to you perform, then your plays are meaningless. So that happens on a way bigger celebrity industry status, but it also happens with artists in our realm as well.
Absolutely. So where do you see your music going in 5 years, man? I mean, that being said, are you feeling like, well, first of all, are you feeling like you need the numbers thing to happen?
No.
Okay.
Cause when I was younger, I started putting music out on YouTube when I was 10 years old. I was getting hundreds of plays, like not thousands, but like hundreds of plays. I started putting music on SoundCloud when I was 14, 15. And every time I put music on SoundCloud, I had 150 songs. It was a couple thousand at least. Like that's what I thought was my core fan base. So making that transition to Spotify and Apple Music and streaming platforms was very weird. SoundCloud's a free service. Not everybody that has SoundCloud has something else. That's one of the biggest draws to it. So when I got onto the streaming platforms, I dropped my first album. Streaming numbers I didn't know what to base it off of, so it was a good foundation starter. I dropped Ghost though, right after I dropped my first album, and got a ton of pre-saves on it. I went crazy on Submit Hub. I submitted it to every possible playlist that I could. And over the first couple months, I got it to like 25K, 30K. And then once it got to 30K, the algorithm picked it up and started pushing it crazy. Got it to 60K. And once it got to 60K, it had 750, 800 saves at that point. So every save that I get started pushing it further in the algorithm. And so Ghost pushed all the way up. I think right now it's almost at 150,000 views on Spotify.
Ghost is fun, man. That's a fun song.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm glad that you rock with it. It's a real throwback at this point.
Right.
But so the first single that I dropped on streaming platforms.
Dude, the
right
throwback
after
for you
album.
was like 2 weeks old though.
Anyway,
Okay.
this was 2018, I believe. So
Yeah.
to
Wow.
set the scene.
So
you feel
long
me?
ago.
Yeah, right. But the first single that I dropped gets 150,000 views, and it's and not off rip. Like that's right now what it has, but it's so dramatically bigger than every other song that I have that I did spend a little time releasing music and being like, damn, it doesn't have as many views as Ghost. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
I thought that this was going to happen consistently. Now, that's not how it works. So shortly after I realized that, was able to get some minor success streaming wise on a couple different songs. But at this point, with St. Kannon, a project that I dropped January 2021, I did a really big rollout for it, essentially. Not in terms of promotion, but I bought some really, really premium sweatshirts. I got CDs, I got bottle openers, keychains,
Nice.
digicards. Like I got the whole thing, and I put them each item in a bundle, and I sold them for $100 each. And I only got 35 bundles. I sold them out in a week. And so when I realized that I was putting all my stock into the streaming numbers as opposed to really just trying to get tangible products and build not just a whole community with this with the area, but a community with my fans themselves,
There you
and
go.
gives them
That's
actual
right.
items that they
We
can
talk about
invest in.
that a lot. We talk about
Yeah.
actual value versus what we perceive as value. And we feel like the value that we really have to have is actual fans. And, you know, all those numbers can translate to how many people buying a T-shirt.
Of course.
It's probably 100, maybe 100 people,
No, if
200 people.
if you get 100 people to buy a $10 T-shirt,
That's pretty good.
You're doing okay.
$1,000 right
Yeah.
there.
It's
And
not
if they
too
buy
bad.
one T-shirt, as long as you didn't mess up the quality of the first one,
Yeah.
and you,
Yeah.
you don't have a crazy scandal, I guess. These
Those are your
days.
true fans, though. Those are your true fans.
100 true fans is a lot of true fans.
That's right.
If you can get to that number, there's nothing stopping you from getting to 1,000. Like that first 100 is really hard. My goal for the past couple years, for a while now, has been to get 1,000 people to spend $100 on me over the course of a year. Whether that's concert tickets, merch, CDs, whatever you can sell them. But 1,000 people is completely feasible.
You've got clear-cut, measurable
Goals.
goals in your mind, and that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of creative minds struggle with, including myself. But you know, that's something to our listeners. That's really important to have measurable goals, and a lot of people don't want to set. This is something I've been just absorbing over the past couple of days. Is a lot of people don't want to set those measurable goals, because if they do, then you're essentially setting the parameters of failure.
You're setting yourself up for
You'll
failure.
know if you don't hit it. You actually can measure when you fail, but that's important.
Right.
You need
It's a
to be able
metric.
to measure when you don't get there, so you can get better and grow. So that's a really. I just want to point that out. That's actually a major thing that you're able.
I gotta
to do.
say that you're ahead of the game, man, on that. And it's hard to find people that are actually that tuned into that, and that's success just waiting to happen, in my opinion.
It's already happening.
Yeah,
you
it's
know? If you're
happening,
doing it
you
right,
know?
if you're doing it, if
Yeah.
you're writing, if you're getting your stuff out there, right? It's the process. You enjoy the process, then
I mean,
you're
you got
doing
all the
okay.
cool toys, man. You got to figure it out in a lot of ways.
Preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
formula for success. You
That's
feel me?
right.
And so, to branch off something I said earlier, like I told myself a little bit ago, I came to terms with the idea that I don't know what my success looks like. I don't know what the end goal necessarily looks like. I know what I want for myself, but I don't know what my apex success really looks like. And so, if I never achieve what I think may happen in my life,
Right.
I can live with it as long as I gave everything I had for as long as I could. Like I can't 20 years from now look back and be like, I could have did this, I could have did that, but I decided not to put the work in. If I put the work in and it doesn't end up working out, I'll have to live with that. You feel me? Because maybe it just wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't meant to be how I expected. Maybe this wasn't my calling, but I have to put the work in. That's the one thing that I know. That's the foundation.
That's great,
I'm gonna
man.
get you to be a guest speaker at the colleges, man. Like you're just tapped into something that
gonna
a lot
say,
of
his-
people need
yeah.
to hear. It's good.
I did a couple presentations at Cornell.
Oh shit, there you go.
And I was teaching at New Roots for a year. I taught a hip hop class over there.
Wow.
And it was
You know Ian Cummings?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the musical director when I was working.
a great guy.
I worked hands on with him for a
Drummer
while.
as
We
well.
put on Rootstock the first year.
Oh, okay. You were working with him on that. Okay.
Yeah. I booked every artist. Like that was
Nice.
I helped set that up. It was phenomenal. Ian is a really dope dude to work with. He helped make the transition very seamless because I was not expecting to be a teacher by any means. It wasn't in the goals. I knew somebody on the faculty. They wanted a hip hop class. and thought that I was the person to do it. And I thought I was completely underqualified and underprepared. And so first day of class throughout the whole year, it was very weird. But Ian helped that journey a lot.
He's a solid dude. He also got me to carry a very heavy keyboard out of his place for free. So
always
he's also
remember,
a smart man.
Always
Yes.
remember the heavy keyboard.
Yeah.
We should get to another tune. I'm really excited about this next one because this next one is called Big Kannon, and there's two samples in here that stood out to me. One is Mozart's Requiem in D minor and the Lacrimosa. And it's just like you put that on loop, and I think you sped it up a little bit. And it was actually that was the last piece Mozart wrote of his whole life. So like it just adds to the epicness of it. So that, and there's a Perfect from Street Fighter, right?
You caught that.
Perfect.
That was a good impression.
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, okay, this is the song that we're gonna pick.
That's hilarious.
So
Nice.
This is Big Kannon.
Get it.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Here we go.
Mixed it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, big cannons, yeah, we always smack. There's a reason why they call me that. Penny got me wet, get up on my space. I bought the party back. Damn stingy, I need all of that. Diamonds on me and they all react. Came from the gutter, now it's all butter. I just had to cook for the sun.
It's another pretty hard song, right?
I would say
there.
Mozart's rolling in his grave, but actually I think he's dancing.
Mozart did not want that. I
wonder.
I like the song, but Mozart
Probably
would
couldn't
not
have even fathomed it. He couldn't have even fathomed it. So I want to bring something up, which, with rap music and in general, there's the language. There's definitely some vulgarity in there, in terms of the language, the word choices and all that. And I know everything's intentional. And I always think of like The Chronic with Dr. Dre and how that was like the first album that really kind of pushed the explicitness of things and the gangster rap and all that. So I'm just curious to know what your take is on all that. What is the how do you feel about all that?
Profanity in hip hop?
Just the language choice, the vulgarity, the profanity.
So obviously,
I know it's complex. I know.
Yeah, it definitely not necessarily a simple answer.
Right.
But first things first, freedom of speech. So everybody's entitled to say what they want whenever they want, but that comes with repercussions depending on what you say. And just because you're entitled to say what you want doesn't mean people can't judge you for it. And so profanity in hip hop has been a thing since NWA came through. Public Enemy, they popularize freedom of speech for real in the culture per se, on a global level. So profanity has always been a part of the culture, and there's songs that are too explicit for me to just sit there and listen to. Not that it's too much cursing, but it doesn't sound appealing to me. You feel me? And there's corny bars that can get gross and disgusting that I'm not a fan of. I see why other people may be. But that's part of the beauty of rap, is that you're able to say anything. We were talking about that brutal honesty earlier.
Yeah.
Not everybody's honesty is the same. Some people are also, music is not always this deep, passionate, introspective thing we like to make it out to be. Sometimes it's just something people want to listen to and shake their ass. You feel me?
Right.
If they just want to hit the club and dance as much as
that,
possible.
yeah.
They don't care what you're saying in the lyrics. So a lot of people get by saying some gross, crazy, nasty stuff. And even some of the music that I listen to, gangster rap, that can get as vulgar and explicit as some of the craziest movies. You feel me? It's just audio.
Yeah, sure.
And so, especially violence. When violence can get depicted so graphically, it's almost worse than just the profane language itself. But a lot of that is just the culture. It's just music. Some stuff is going to be accepted, some will be rejected, but we'll all be able to view it and listen to it and give our own opinion off of it.
I think if it's intentional, it's art. I mean, if you're just spewing it out to make an effect or have you a shock just for shock value, I guess there's value in that as well. But a lot of times I think profanity is very purposeful.
Absolutely.
And meaningful.
Well, that's what I got from the song as I'm listening. Like, you're telling a story.
It's definite.
I like the Moonies
Yeah,
reference.
the Moonies,
in
right.
there.
Not a lot of people are
Yeah.
gonna get that if you're not from Ithaca. So if you're tuning in
Right.
from somewhere else, just know don't
Dear
go to
Lord
Moonies.
Come to Ithaca and experience the Moonies. But yeah,
You'll never be the same.
there's an intention behind it, and that's what I liked about it. And you know, like you said, sometimes the language just kind of gets thrown for shock value, but I
Right.
don't think that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, that's not. That
with
wasn't
you.
happening.
Well, if we're since we're being honest right here, this specific song, this came out on an album that I dropped in 2019, and it was a collaboration album with another artist out here named Meech Booker. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. Around this specific time of music, I had just transitioned into Anthony Kannon, and that as a brand and as a musician.
Okay.
Because I used to go by a different moniker, Infamous, from like 12 to 18. At 18, I transitioned. 19, I dropped this album. This album was unlike anything I ever made musically before then, and to be honest, since then, because I was trying to find myself. I didn't know where my sound was. I didn't know who I wanted to be musically or what I wanted to do. So this whole project was just about pushing barriers for myself creatively, and doing something that was uncomfortable.
amazing.
And so that I can't say that all the profanity in there was to drag some crazy emotion out. I think that if I'm just being honest, it was filler at that stage in my at that stage in my journey, because I didn't know what else to do. I'm glad I got a good song out of it.
Yeah, it's a killer song.
Thank you. But this album was probably the most lost I ever was musically. But it took something like this, because this is still my most viewed project. This is a lot of people's favorite out of my whole discography.
Isn't that funny?
It's
Sometimes you got to get into the weeds before you can see what's going on.
Yeah.
And, I actually wanted to ask you, describe the demoing process. Now, I know you get a lot of tracks, you get the packs of tracks and whatever. We were just working with Elgin and kind of going through that process with him. And there's obviously a lot of creativity in those tracks. Do you have anything to do with those producers up front in the demoing of those tracks? Or do you just have them hand them to you and surprise you? How does that work?
So a lot of the producers I've been working with, it initially starts whether if I'm reaching out to them, I'm like, hey, send me what you got. If they're reaching out to me, they already know, they're familiar with my music to some extent, so they hear the sound that I've been going with recently. And the sound that I've been doing for the past year or so is the sound I'm trying to carve out the niche for myself. And so I've been building with the producers so they know what to send me at this point, or get an idea of it. Sometimes they want to push me out of my comfort zone still, which I'm totally down to do. But usually it's just the beat itself. I write to the beat whenever I can. If I get a pack of 15 or 20, I listen to the first one. If I don't like it, I go to the next. But if I like it, I don't listen to any other beat in the pack until I write a song.
So primarily, you're not even in the midst of this producer. You're just communicating off-site.
Off start. So to start the projects, to start the creation process, for sure, they send me the beat. I tell them, I might need it longer. I can you add this to it? Can you take this out of it? Can we mix this part a little bit better? And then that's only if it's necessary. A lot of the times it's not necessary. I just write to the song until I get some that I really, really enjoy. I schedule a studio session. I make sure to have 8 to 10 songs for a 10-hour session. I knock it out. And we go from there. The post-production phase is a little bit different than the actual creation phase. That's when I have a significant more hand-on than beforehand. Because once the song's recorded, now I know what little tweaks I want to do to it. I know if I need to change anything, and I know if I need anything added or removed even more clearly than before.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of more instrumentally driven music. I find like the songwriter in the space with the producer up front often. But that's pretty interesting that you're offsite and then you kind of work toward the studio.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because I write often. And just because you write often doesn't mean everything's keepable. And with how much I write, like I do write with producers in the room sometimes. Like I have created stuff from scratch before, but I can get into a zone and write 4 or 5 songs in 2-3 hours if I'm locked in. And it's not necessarily just, oh, we're building this right now, let me tap in, we're create this as it goes. I'm a person that puts headphones on and I black out. And then I look at my notes and there's
a writer,
5
man.
paragraphs there.
You're a
Straight up.
full-on poet.
Absolutely.
Like that's what you're living it.
1,000%. And the beat is what inspires. At this point, I used to write all my music a cappella because I was writing it hand in a notebook during class. I didn't have headphones. I was just writing bars while the teacher was talking. And eventually, I haven't wrote an a cappella verse and I don't know how long because I have an abundance of beats. Like I have hundreds of songs and I have hundreds of beats that I've yet to use. And so I'm always listening to beats. There's no point for me to write an a cappella at this point. And so it's a drastically different situation right there. I just pull out my phone and I get to typing.
Awesome.
Sometimes my screen breaks and I have to get that fixed and get back to typing.
What is that nonsense?
That's an ad lib.
It's the IRS.
Lord.
They never call.
The Better Business Bureau.
So let's say just someone sends you a beat, but you've never worked with them before. Are you gonna listen to that beat? Do you take submissions just from anybody, or are you very just like, I'll only take from this person because I know them?
I have a email just for beats. And I used
because I might want to send you a beat.
What?
I got some beats, man.
man.
That's more. Well,
He makes his play.
Hey, man, gotta do it sometime,
so
right?
I used to have my beats email in my bio on all social medias because a lot of producers end up on your page, and I want people to feel like they can send me anything. Doesn't mean I'm gonna purchase it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to make a song to it automatically.
Right.
But I will absolutely listen to it. You feel me? And if it's dope, we can try to work on a song together. And if it's a good song, we can try to build off of that. Like the relationship is just as important as just the one song. You feel me? You have to build that.
What was that song, Old Town Road, right? Like that beat came from some dude in like Iceland or something. Like so, like it was just some guy, and he, so you never know. You never know what could happen.
Absolutely. And the email is open to any producers listening. They can send
There
the
you
beats
go.
right over. Beats4Kannon@gmail.com.
There you go. Take note. Take note.
We'll put it on the bottom of the screen for you.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description for sure.
So before we head into this next song, which is going to be the video, we're going to play Ghost.
Yeah, we'll edit and post.
Yeah, and the one thing it's been kind of all night. Your voice is very unique to me, and hearing you talk and just kind of go through, and also you have this crazy bright mind, man. It just keeps going. No wonder you're writing shit all the time.
Yo, it's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, I bet. How do you sleep at night? You know,
that's a rough question.
Yeah. So, I think that when did you believe in your voice? When did you believe in your sound?
That was late. Believing in my voice was real late.
Did you struggle with that?
Absolutely. Because I do have a real unique voice. And if you, I always tell my family I sound like my grandmother. And I work insurance. I work at State Farm. So I'm always calling people and talking to them on the phone. And when I say, hey, what's up? They're like, ma'am, can like every time. So
no shit.
And I don't think I don't think I sound atrocious. I don't think I sound overtly like a woman. I don't think I have a crazy deep voice, a crazy high voice. Like I just think that a lot of my early music, I didn't know how to deliver it. Because I always was a writer. Like I always just knew I could rap. I didn't know how to deliver it. And it took me a long time to realize recording music was completely different. Being able to be a good recording artist is completely different than being a rapper or being somebody who can rap. Like the art of recording is very important. So if you're not going about
we talk about that.
If you're not
Art of
going about
recording.
making the music the right way, you're not gonna like your voice. You're not gonna like how you sound.
No, it does affect it quite a bit.
1,000%. And my voice has changed over time. Like even on the Big Kannon track we just played, like that was a couple years ago, and I'll never sound like that on a song again. Even if I tried, like I couldn't. And so a lot of people, it took dozens of people telling me, yo, your voice is so unique. I've never heard anything like it. Yo, your voice, that's crazy. Like one time I was doing a show in Saratoga. I check into the hotel, and the person that's checking me into my room is like, why are you here? I'm like, I'm actually performing a show at one of the clubs in town. She was like, not with that voice.
Oh, damn.
They really said that to you?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
Upon
my
checking, I'm like, oh, I
did
could
you-
one star you on Yelp right now. Like,
Yeah, how
that's
did you
why
react to that?
I laughed. I thought it was
on Yelp.
hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah.
Because I don't know if she thinks I'm a singer. I don't know if she assumes I'm a rapper. But
Oh, my God.
it don't, as long as I can get on a microphone, I can rap for you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so I think it's hilarious. I have a really raspy, lighthearted voice that's kind of low in tone, but it can get really loud. And so trying to utilize that more as an instrument through the music itself is a journey within itself. I really like it. I'm not always gonna be thrilled that I can't sing. Like I simply can't sing. But I've learned to really love my voice. Just love myself. Like, you feel me?
Nice.
That's
Because
what it is, man.
you have to learn to love.
Embrace
yourself.
that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we focus in on that here at New Vine, really trying to help artists love the DNA of what's inside, and not
play to
trying to
your
alter
strengths,
that.
too.
Yeah, play to your strengths. Love who you are. There's something unique and special about each person in that way. Every artist. So hey, Anthony, thank you for being a part of this today, and we're gonna check out this last song, Ghost.
Absolutely.
All right, so here we go.
Chai's mixed it.
I've been thinking about the road, trying to book a lot of shows. If you want me, let me know. Bitch, I'm with it, yeah. I've been riding with the bros. I know everywhere we go, he gon' keep a pole. He got it with him, yeah. I've been looking for the gold, cooking with the pros, but I guess that's how it goes. I ain't tripping, yeah. I ain't got no time to chill. Get the check in and I'm ghost. Finally disappear in smoke. The magician, yeah. Niggas left me in the cold, had the heater like the stove, but I guess that's how it goes. I ain't tripping, yeah. I ain't got no time to chill. Get the check in and I'm ghost. Finally disappear in smoke. The magician, yeah. Word around town that nigga spit a bar well. So low key, got him looking like the cartel. Town on my back, had to lift it like a barbell. Used to have the trap spot, meet me by the guardrail. I'ma make it real right, don't care how the car's dealt. Hit him in his chest, shit be looking heartfelt. Niggas acting real tough, they don't know the part well. I just need a new
Couple of lines in there are just fantastic. The one about the your favorite rapper went broke, something to that extent, and that just makes me think of like how appearances can be deceiving, right? So you see some of these guys on the major labels, and they've got these fancy cars and these diamonds, chains, all this stuff, right? But they don't own it. The label paid for them to look like that, and people don't realize.
Yeah.
Everything is not what it seems.
That came to mind with that when I heard that lyric in there. A couple other fun lines in that. There's a bounce to it. I mean, it's a strong outing. It really is.
I think that one of the things you mentioned is a really big factor that contributed to the success of the song, which is the bounce to the beat.
Bounces,
Yeah.
man.
Like you get hooked to the beat
Yeah.
before
All of the
the lyrics
songs.
even start.
And the lyrical phrasing. There's something about the phrasing of that refrain that has a bounce, and it works well with the music. The music video, which we'll have.
Yeah,
in the
you
final
guys will
version.
see it on YouTube.
It looks like you're having a good time. It looks like you're playing some beer pong or something like that, just outside.
Probably was at the time.
What was there's the planet Neptune is in the video, not the actual planet, but like the slate of the
Talk about a budget. Jeez.
wait, but what's that planetary system?
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking
The
about.
Carl
Carl Sagan.
Sagan, the Sagan planet thing.
Yeah, I used to smoke a lot of weed and write a lot of raps there.
At near Neptune.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
And so that's definitely one of the spots we had in the music video.
That's good inspiration.
Yeah,
of course. Ghost was a really fun song to make. It was my least favorite beat out of the pack that the producer sent me.
Wow, that's
but
fascinating.
it was the first beat of the pack that I heard, and it was something I knew I couldn't stop bouncing to it, and I hated it. Like,
why the fuck am I
yeah,
bouncing?
exactly. I was like, I can't stop. And so I was like, I know that this is gonna be the first song that I write to. So
Oh my.
we got it, and the rest is history from there. That was really the first song me and Des is Clever put out.
Well, and that's the one that really shows up on the numbers.
Yeah,
Right,
man,
that was
for
the
sure.
one.
People, yeah, that happens a lot on albums. People almost drop songs, and it's like everybody, hey, I like that song. It's pretty common.
Yeah, it's who knows why that
The
happens.
sleeper, yeah.
Well, that happened with total change of genre here, but that was with Wizard of Oz. That song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" was on the cutting room floor, and it was like an afterthought.
It's
And then
almost not
someone was
used.
like, "No, you gotta put it in the movie," and they did,
One of
and
the
it's
most
like
legendary ones.
yeah. So there you go.
Super legendary.
Cool.
So,
All right.
hey, well, again,
Yeah.
Anthony, thanks for being here. You honestly, if we could have just sat here and listened to you talk all night. We kind of did, to be honest with you.
Did, yeah,
This
definitely.
was
Yeah.
great. Yeah, thanks again for being here. Like we were really looking forward to having you on this show, and
Yeah, your reputation precedes you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me up here. I really enjoyed myself, and I think the conversation that we had is important for a lot of different type of people in this community that we've been speaking about. So
Is
glad
there
to have had it.
is there any parting words of wisdom?
yeah. Or what do you have coming up? What's
Any-
next?
I was gonna say parting words of wisdom, no, but some promos.
Yeah. Hit it up. Let's
do
let's
it.
hear it.
Just June 24th, I'm dropping my next project, Art is Perception, produced by one of my good friends, Andrew Aranio. And this is my personal favorite project I've put out so far. I think this is the most mature I've been on a record. I think the storytelling is elite. The production is out of this world. We really locked in on something special, and so I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
But as you know, the year is full with Kannon, so you're gonna be on this project for a little bit, and then I'm gonna smack you in the face with another one right after that. So, Artist Perception, June 24th. Keep an eye out for anything else, and I appreciate you guys for having me.
All right. Well, everybody, you heard it. Anthony Kannon. He's with us here today. And do check out his stuff, all the socials, all the stuff.
Absolutely.
Even on Bandcamp, right?
Anthony Kannon with a K on all social medias, all streaming platforms, and yes, especially
Even
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.
I saw you guys hit the Bandcamp earlier. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
yeah.